Welcome to John W.'s Corner. And yes, we are going into another chapter. Chapter 8 of Johnny's World today. And chapter 8 is entitled The Fire. Now, as Chensley is sharing this, as Nate, of course, a couple of days had passed since my conversation with Mr. Howell. It was a cloudy morning. There was stillness in the air, although I could hear neighborhood children playing to get as much outside fun before school began again. I told Mom that I was going to ride my bike. I headed down to the end of the block past Walter's house and turned by Dorman's Quick Stop. As I continued down the street, I could see Walter and Ken headed back in the direction that I had just come. As I passed them, we waved, and as I came nearer to the Millers, I could see Johnny running across the street in what appeared to be quite a rush. I was about to yell at him to get his attention when I heard what sounded like a scream. I could see Mrs. Miller through her upstairs window. It appeared that she was trying to open it. As soon as it opened, I saw smoke pouring out of the house. Her screams of help got louder as she cried, "Please help us, the house is on fire." All I could do was honk my horn repeatedly and yell, "Fire!" I got off my bike and raced to the Miller's burning house. Johnny had heard my horn and saw me running toward the house. He was on his way immediately. Walter and Ken heard my signal, so they headed back in our direction. I noticed the next door neighbor as he came outside to see what was going on. And I said, "Please call the fire department." Johnny went to the front door right behind me. "Tin Man, move!" Immediately, he began kicking the door until it opened. Now, trying to get my book straight. "Johnny, it's the Millers, and Mrs. Miller is upstairs." Black smoke was pouring out of the door. The fire appeared to be coming from the kitchen. As we entered the kitchen, we saw a frying pan with a burner that had been left on with bacon grease in it. Bacon grease burns easily and will catch fire. Normally, baking soda can be used to put out a small fire, but this was spreading too quickly. Also, if I had access to salt, that might even work, but there wasn't time. The fire was already moving up the walls toward the upstairs, right below where Mrs. Miller was. The smoke was, I saw upstairs, was likely coming from the air vents. And Johnny very quickly said, "Tinsley, go find Mr. Miller and hurry. I'll go upstairs to get Mrs. Miller. The fire is spreading very fast." Mr. Miller, overcome by smoke, was in the living room sitting in a chair. I quickly managed to pick up a straight-legged chair and used it to break the window in that room. It immediately allowed smoke to escape. Walter came in and said, "Hey, the fire trucks were pulling up outside." I told Walter, "Grab Mr. Miller's legs and help me as we try to get him by his arms." As the firemen were coming up the sidewalk, we were struggling to get him out of the house. We told them our friend Johnny went upstairs to find Mrs. Miller. They replied, "You all need to get out of the house now. This fire is spreading quickly. The firemen had hooked up their hose out front and down the street to a fire plug that was yellow with a green top. Suddenly, I heard what sounded like a small explosion coming from the kitchen. The fire apparently was beginning to spread to the second floor. Johnny, we all yelled. Where was he? Where was he okay? Did he find Mrs. Miller? From outside, we watched as the smoke poured out of the front door. Suddenly, two figures carrying another came out. They were a fireman, Johnny, and Mrs. Miller. An ambulance was waiting. The attendants began treating Mrs. Miller. She was coughing uncontrollably. Johnny was coughing some as well, and Mr. Miller was already in the ambulance. Now, they were both taken to the hospital. Fortunately, the hospital was less than 5 minutes away, and it took the firemen quite a while to put out that fire. It had spread to the upstairs bedroom. With both fire damage and smoke damage, it affected at least half of the house. The kitchen was destroyed, and before the fire was under control, I even prayed for one of those summer storms. Lord, let it rain. It didn't, but I felt so much better for hoping. With all the excitement, I had noticed the crowd had gathered. My mom and Johnny's mom were in the crowd, and I saw both the Davidsons and the Lightfoots out there. Bruce came running up to Johnny, asking, "Are you guys all right?" "Yes, but the Miller's house is a mess, and oh my, all those pretty colors are ruined." We could hear more sirens, so we wondered if there was another fire nearby until two cars pulled up. One was a police car, and the other was identified as the fire marshal. The men in those cars had a lot of questions, mostly directed to us three children. A TV crew arrived as well, and without thinking, Walter said, "Wow, are we going to be famous?" At first, I thought maybe so, until things took a turn for the worse. The next couple of days, they were like a bad dream. Johnny's world was about to shake, and only one word described it: the word trouble. Trouble. And we're going to look into that the next regular episode, which I will mention in just a minute. As I play this special song, if you can hear it. And I'll explain myself. Tomorrow is Saturday, unless you're watching this at a different time. And as promised, tomorrow is bonus Saturday. I will be sharing a bonus story. I will probably forego Johnny's World story until the next episode, which will be chapter 9, of course. So come back for bonus Saturday, and I'm going to share a special story with you. And I appreciate you coming by to John's Corner. Bye for now. See you again.